Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1 minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco and Kyle.
Yes, sir.
We are lovers of art, are we not?
Oh, yes. We are big art aficionados.
We love art.
I'm not being a snob. I say I'm a big fan of pop art. It's just modern art is what kind of confuses me.
It can be confusing. This is true. Now, occasionally, if you've ever had an opportunity to go to some of the great museums of the world, for us here in the States, the Smithsonian Institution is obviously one of the most well-known. The National Gallery. Oh, Guggenheim, absolutely, in New York City, sure. No, and every major metropolitan city's got their Museum of Modern Art. You know,
I've been to MoMA.
Yes, exactly. San Francisco one I've been to, but I had a really great experience when I used to work in DC, going to the National Gallery, and if you go to the Modern Wing, there is one of probably the most famous works of Barnett Newman. Who is an American artist. He's a major figure in abstract expressionism, is a work that he did called The Stations of the Cross. And it's the 14 panels, basically in Christianity. It depicts the trial and tribulations of Jesus. And he did it in a very abstract way. It's basically just, it's compositions of light and dark, and lines and all, different works of dark and light matter on the canvases. And it's a great experience. I mean, when you go in the center of the room and you can enjoy it. Right now you can't because I think the museum's closed. But it's a fantastic exhibit. It's interesting because he, born in 1905 in New York City, he is the son of Jewish immigrants from Poland. And so his whole take on art, very interesting, as I said, abstract expressionist. And he's one of the foremost of the color field painters. Color field painting is a style of abstract painting, emerges in New York City during the 1940s and 1950s, inspired by European modernism. He did pass away on July 4th, 1970. But here's the thing I want to bring up. As you're wondering, why am I talking about Barnett Newman? In May of 2014, the Christie's Auction House set a record for the artist's work called Blackfire 1, and it sold for $84 million.
It's one painting.
One painting.
84 million. To a Japanese collector?
I believe so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He got $80 million paintings, people.
Right.
It's a big deal. Who could you imagine would have one of these in their domiciles?
Yeah, I mean, who would be so crass as to have one of these things in their garage?
Yeah, their workshop. Come on.
Well, we're going to find out as we hit minute 21 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Mr. Jon Favreau. And we are coming in the middle of a sentence and in the middle of an argument. Pepper and Tony are still going at it about Tony getting rid of all of the things that he owns and Pepper not understanding why. So she had started the sentence in minute 20. I think I'm actually entitled to say our collection, and considering the time I put in over, and now in 21, we finished the sentence, 10 years curating that. So, they have been working together for 10 years. So, I assume that the 10-year mark, she started out as an assistant, and that was one of the things that they were doing.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I'd say all the flashbacks they've done in the MCU, we've never seen, young Pepper and Tony.
Right.
I was curious about, as these next couple minutes are all about them just bickering, essentially, for 3 or 4 minutes. What are people's general impressions of this? And so because there are different relationship things that people go, and so I did some research into shipping, and I found out that they, as a couple, Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, are known as Pepperoni.
Oh,
isn't that adorable?
No, who did that?
Shippers, man, they got their own language. So it ends with a Y, not an I, because obviously it's Pepper and Tony, so it's Pepperoni.
Tony. Oh,
yeah.
God.
And for the most part, I had a hard time finding anybody who was sort of negative on their relationship. So it's for the most part, the fandoms have been yes, Pepper plus Tony forever. Carved into a tree because they have canonized it. So I'm just curious. So we get to see this adorable couple as Tony Stark lies and lies and lies to Pepper. I say that these 2 minutes are full of probably the most lies Tony has told in a compressed amount of time.
Some deception. There are some deceptions.
Always a good foundation for a relationship.
Well, I mean,
I know at this point, like there's not a romantic thing going on. Somebody actually wrote a pretty interesting article I read that was talking about how their love is emotional because Tony thinks of it as two separate things. So he has an emotional relationship, Pepper, and a physical relationship with whoever. Like he doesn't associate those two things together. So he doesn't think of Pepper that way and that kind of thing. Interesting theory.
I don't know though. I think I think as you're going to see as we continue on, especially in the next few minets, there are moments of flirtation with.
Oh, they're definitely flirtation, but yes. But I don't think that he's not quite the lech that he could that we've seen him be and will see him be.
Yes, well,
soon.
Yes.
So Tony answers her and he says, "It's a tax write-off. I needed it," talking about selling the paintings, which is a lie. Like he doesn't. It wasn't, and it doesn't. He just wanted a place for him to go when he dies. So as they continue on, Pepper says, "There's only about 8,011 things I really need to talk to you about." So, Rob, do you know what the significance of 8,011 is?
I'm sure there is one. Is there?
As everyone knows, 8,011 is the Lego Star Wars set Jango Fett. The one that you would build that looks like Jango Fett from the Episode 2 collection. It was not the ship, but actually him. Like you build a full size.
Oh, the aggregate. That's the set number.
Yeah, set number 8011. So clearly, I think that's what they were alluding to in this scene.
Wow. We are totally scraping.
See, some facts are for the audience, and some are just for you, Rob.
For me. I do remember the set actually.
They've come a long way, baby. So
there is no other meaning, right? 8,000.
Exactly. No, okay. Not that I could tell. I mean,
not that we could tell. If you find something, please let us know. But,
well, we'll say if Justin Thoreau is listening, is there any significance for why you picked 8,011?
Tell us what it means.
So as they continue on with the fight, they're going through the thing. And so we get into a area we've not seen before, a very densely packed sort of part of the lab with all these different machines and stuff in there. And so as we're going through, we see now, here's Dummy. We saw you was out there, was trying to make him a smoothie earlier on. And so now here's Dummy. So this is the first appearance of Dummy in the movie. Hey, Dummy, stop spacing out. The Bridgeport's already matching that part. So I was like, what the heck is he talking about?
Right.
So this big machine that is standing around, this is actually the Bridgeport GX 1300. This is from Hardinge, made in your old stomping grounds, Berwyn, Pennsylvania.
Berwyn.
Berwyn. Berwyn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
No,
Berwyn.
Yeah, Berwyn. I don't know.
So it's basically a manufacturing thing. So what's going on here? He's making the Mark 6 armor. That's what's happening here. So right now they're actually building it, and you can see over his shoulder as he's talking to Dummy, there's a display and you see the pieces that are being manufactured. So this is actually tooling up the pieces, because back in this time, now he's Endgame, we think about it all being all nano-y and stuff too, but here he actually still has to build everything out of metal and titanium or whatever it is that he machine that he does. So he actually has to build every single part. So that's what's happening here, is it's basically constructing it. So I don't know what Dummy was doing, but it's basically like, no, it's already handling that.
Interesting. Okay, no, and that you can actually see that on the screen, like you said. There's a tray of parts that you can kind of see there in the corner.
Yep.
One thing to note, in the far upper right corner of this shot, there is a classic Pontiac Motors emblem, like one of the old antique metal emblems from the mid 20th century.
Yeah.
For those of you who wonder, what is that little logo? It looks sort of like some sort of red insignia. Pontiac, which is now a defunct division of General Motors, it was named after Chief Pontiac, who was a Native American leader who had led a rebellion against the British in the 1760s. The original logo, which was introduced in 1926, was an Indian headdress. In 57, the company switched to another symbol, a Native American symbol, an arrowhead. And that's why if you've ever seen old Pontiacs and you see their emblem with looks like a diamond or so, no, it's an arrowhead. It's all Native American roots.
Yeah, all from Michigan. What is now Michigan. And so there actually is a Pontiac, Michigan you can go to, and I have actually been there.
Yes.
I wonder what happened. I couldn't remember what happened. I know they got absorbed into something. So they got
that was when Oldsmobile and Pontiac and everything, when GM realized we have too many divisions. Consolidate.
Yeah. They were the Disney of motoring companies, just like buy all of it and then figure out what to do with it later.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It turns out Pepper is not a big fan of the Expo because as the argument continues, she says the Expo is a gigantic waste of time.
Boo, Pepper.
Oh,
Boo.
Pepper. Come on.
What the heck?
Stark Expo. Come on, everybody.
You got your shirt on, I see. No,
yeah, right. Wearing my Stark Expo shirt.
Come on. What? Yeah. Are you kidding me? It's the legacy. It's about leaving a legacy for future generations.
It's about his dad.
Whatever,
on,
Pepper. Maybe it's because she's got that cold, which we hear her cough.
And we do hear her cough because the next thing he said, and once again, is I say, Pepper is not the most sympathetic character, especially in this minute too, because she's supposed to be the voice of reason. So Tony says after she's coughing, she says, "I need you to wear a surgical mask until you're feeling better." Look at that. Tony Stark, futurist.
See those visions that he had?
See, 10 years. He was looking ahead 10 years. He knew you're sick, you wear a mask. See, it's simple. Tony Stark knew it. And so what does Pepper say? That's rude.
Yeah, it's rude.
No, Pepper. No, it's not.
No, Pepper, it's
sensible.
Not. One should keep him safe.
Yeah.
Come on.
Think about other people, Pepper.
No, based on what we said, and if you listen to a previous minute, you'll know that Gwyneth Paltrow actually does have a cold during the filming.
She was sick when they were shooting these scenes, so they wrote it into the thing, or they improv'd it in.
Okay, well,
I think there is because they talk about it's all improv. I don't think so, because there's a lot of facts that get thrown around here, especially in these couple minutes. I think they had a spine of we talk about this, and then they just are allowed to sort of vamp around it.
And I think that's exactly what they did here. Yeah. And I do think it's funny that when he says you should wear the surgical mask, she does then let out the coughs in his face.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "That's rude." I mean, it's it's a quick moment, but when you know a little bit more about the backstory, well done.
Yeah. So as they're moving through, let's see. Tony says, "There's nothing more important to me than the Expo. It's my primary concern." Which is another lie.
Well,
that is not his primary concern.
No.
It is a concern, but it's not his primary concern. And then Pepper says, "The Expo is your ego gone crazy." Ooh. All right. That's fair hit. But
here's your knife back, Pepper.
Yeah, right. It's like right between my shoulder blades. You want to just
wow, there's something to be said for bluntness in a relationship.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so it's like, that's your boss, dude. Like, I would never be that honest with my boss.
Like I said,
any boss I've ever had, I would never be that honest.
Flirting is different for different people.
I guess so. I guess when you get to that high level of money and power, things can change. So then as you're going through, he sees a piece of art. Now, it's weird that I don't know why this is here. Like, in this space. Like, I get that somebody had created a piece of art and gave it to Tony Stark, but I don't know why it's in his garage and he didn't know it was there.
Right.
Because he gets it. All I can think of is there's a lot going on in this scene with the lies and everything too, and that Tony is basically intentionally camouflaging. I think he's doing this specifically to wind her up. I think he planted this specifically just to drive her crazy.
Yes.
So he pulls out and it is an Iron Man poster that someone has given him, and it is a very familiar style. Now, if anybody was paying attention during the Obama campaign, the original one in 2008, there's a very famous image that came out of an artist had created that. It said it was a portrait a drawing of Obama, and it had said "Hope" at the bottom of it. So that was by an artist named Shepard Fairey. And so this is actually like an homage to that. So it just says, it doesn't say iron. I thought it just says Iron Man across the bottom, which seems like a failure of design on their part. But so Shepard Fairey is, if anyone has ever seen the Obey image that's Andre the Giant's face.
Right.
That he originally came up with that. And then he came up with this, and because he was so inspired by the campaign, he was not commissioned. They did not do it. He did this himself, and they contacted him and said, "This is fantastic. We want to officially sort of license this from you." And then so he's still working on our site. If you go to, I think it's obeygiant.com. He's still making art today, putting out tons of stuff. So he's still a working artist, a street artist. I'm not sure exactly what he refers to himself as, but
right. Interesting story too about that. In that when it first came out, I believe he had a different word. It wasn't hope. It was change or progress or something like that. And then the campaign was like, no, we're really focusing on the hope. Please change it to hope, which makes me think that this version of it should say peace.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because that's what Iron Man's about, right? Yeah. He privatized world peace and commercialized it. Now, if you read about the story, yes, Shepard Fairey is known for the Andre the Giant one. The Obama art has a whole crazy story with it where there was, afterwards, basically, the person who was the AP photographer who took the photo that it was apparently based on.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just say, you can learn all about it yourself.
Yeah,
just Google it.
I know. This is a court case about.
It was really interesting about intellectual property, fair use.
Yep.
If you're a budding artist and you get wrapped up in a cultural phenomenon, please read the cautionary tale of what happened, because there's more to it.
Yeah, it's quite the labyrinthine. And the decisions and things too. Yeah. It's just difficult for artists who want to, comment or reflect.
Nothing is simple, people. No. Nothing is simple. No. Let's just suffice it to say, nothing is simple. Now, in this shot, as soon as we have him pick up the painting and the shot changes on the back wall, just to note this again, another one of those sort of antique tin logos is of Purol Pep, which is a motor fuel company that was popular in the 1940s. There were Purol Pep gas stations in the United States.
Because obviously this is still a garage, even though it's they're making armor now. There's still lots of,
but you know what? He
clearly car and classic car culture.
No, and that's why these are all up on the wall. Like he is just you know what his driving motivation, no pun intended, motivation is. Even if you look at, there's a behind him in this scene, there is a bright yellow. It says flammable. It has warnings on it and stuff, and it's got like hot rod line art on it. So, I mean, just really funny, eccentric things that you would expect to see in somebody.
And like my dad, I'm sure he has a collection of license plates on the wall somewhere, too. Because you have to, right? Just below that sign, there actually is a cabinet. It looks like that something dangerous is kept there because it says flammable and inflammable. And I started thinking about, doesn't flammable and inflammable mean the same thing? And so I sort of went, yeah, doesn't it? So I dug into it a little bit and I found out why. And so if nothing else, you're going to learn a little something today, because it turns out that it comes from those wacky Latins. No, not those Latins, the other ones. This is the original word, flammare, which is to catch fire, and Latin prefix in, which means to cause to. So it means to cause to catch fire. That's what inflammable means. But we just use in for all sorts of negative kind of stuff. So it has nothing to do with that. But then in 1813, another scholar was doing Latin. And so he just said, he looked at the word flammare and went, why not we just make that flammable? And he just changed it. He just went, no, that's what it should be. And so now we have two words floating around that mean the same thing, just because different translators, one from the 1600s, one from the 1800s, were having a tiff.
You know what's beautiful about this conversation?
What?
If you'd like to learn more about Latin, tune in to minute 25. Coming up later.
That's right. A lot of Latin that's flying around. Yeah. So then, meanwhile, back to the Bickersons. So that's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
Wow.
So Pepper says Stark is in complete disarray, which actually is true, but at this point she's referring to the company. Tony says, no, our stocks have never been higher. It's like,
yeah,
okay. Is that the measure of success to go by?
Sure is.
Okay.
No.
So as they walk through and they're still arguing all the way through. As they walk through the space, they go over, starts looking for a place to hang up this picture, and so he spots on the wall, and the painting on the wall is, of course, a Barrett Newman painting. Yay! So when you look at it from here, it just looks like a stripe. But if you look at Barrett Newman's paintings, mostly what he did. Squares. That's
mostly what he did. Now, the whole thoughts went into the density and the shape and edges, but yes, it's a stripe.
So we see as then Tony's of course Pepper is incensed about this. How could you take down this beautiful and probably very expensive painting to put up this
right?
You didn't even take the time to put a word at the bottom. So we see next thing we see the readout of the expo. So like there's a big thing to talk about the expo. Well, one of the reasons this is here is because Jon Favreau said test audiences were having a hard time understanding what the Stark Expo was. So they all assumed that it was like he had done it. Like he went there, did their Stark Expo. It was a one-day event and it was over.
Got it.
So when they went back to it later on in the movie, everybody was really confused about what the heck was going on. So they had to put these little signposts along the way to say, no, this runs for a year. So if you look, you can see on the thing, it says 362 days left. And you'll see this pop up numerous times throughout the movie to reinforce the fact that the Stark Expo is still going on. It's still happening. And then you also see that also tells us that 3 days have passed since he did his big, Ironet entrance with his magical changing tuxedo. So they added this in post, obviously. So then they get into something that I had trouble figuring out exactly what this was. So maybe Rob, maybe you determined what this was. So Pepper is talking about some of the other projects that they're working on. And she says, we have already awarded contracts to the wind farm people and the plastic plantation tree. Now, the wind farm is pretty obvious. Like, I'm sure they have wind power. I mean, that's a big thing in California, too. I mean, if you drive through, even like as we do from Phoenix driving into California, you'll pass through a bunch of wind farms. But plastic plantation tree, I wasn't 100% sure at. So I did some searching of this, and the closest I could find was there's a company called Trees for the Future. And their thing is they're trying to eliminate plastic bags from planting trees. Because apparently that's a big thing when your people are moving trees around planting. If they use plastic, and that plastic just goes to waste. So they're now trying to create biodegradable bags to move around trees. And you're like, why would that be such a big deal? Apparently, if they could do that, 10 million bags a year would no longer be circulating around and causing and filling up landfills and things. I had no idea that was such a big thing, but I guess that's what this is talking about. But that's the closest I could find. So they're doing some pretty good work.
They are. You exercised 102% more thought into those two words than I did. I had no idea that tree bags were a problem.
I know. Who knew? What? It's such a big thing, but like so many things we need to do.
Well, I think I missed. I got to tell you something. I missed the plastic plantation comment because I'm still focused on the wind farm, and then he's got the ridiculous retort to that.
Please tell me that was an RDJ improv because
Well, but it fits though. It fits in. Okay, now and just to kind of go into the detail of this, as they're walking to kind of do this, there's a whole bunch of little things in the scene that we should mention. As they pass the stairwell to get to this corner of the workshop, there's an art. I couldn't find the source of this, but it looks to be basically like a mosaic of different elements of the American flag. So little zoom ins of all this stuff, and I tried and could not find that. He does pass a Wurlitzer jukebox, which looks like it is the model 1015, 1946. Which is fantastic, and you can kind of tell these are so well known just by their shape and their bubblers. They have a bubbler mechanism and lighting and everything, and it's a vinyl edition because the CD one actually would replace the front panel with the CD array. So this is a classic Wurlitzer, and Wurlitzer was an American company. They did a whole bunch of different things. What's interesting is their jukebox operations were sold and moved to Germany in 1973. I did not know that.
Oh, Deutschland over all this.
So please keep up the good work. And then
I still rarely have a chance to break out my small smattering of German that I remember.
Small smattering German. That sounds like you're angry.
Shout out to my Deutschers out there.
Yes. Then on you have this big panel display, which we've seen, like you said, the expo information. On the table below that, we know that Tony sometimes likes to kick back with a little Xbox 360. Nice. We see the classic model there. That Xbox 360 was a home game console developed by Microsoft. It was the successor to the original Xbox. It was
swappable face plates that no one ever swapped.
Oh no, nobody did before the vinyl wraps were a big deal.
Yeah.
Came out in May of 2005. Obviously, the second generation of the Xbox. To the left of that, and we've talked about
Shout
this.
out to all my people who suffered through a red ring of death, I did.
Oh my guy did.
Never forget.
Red rings of death on Xbox 360s was horrible. Yeah, that was a problem.
Painful.
Yeah, who knows? Okay. To the left of that is a series of 3 lighted sculptures, and it looks like to be 3 images of 3 different people. I searched for a lot of things about this. Couldn't find anything that was verifiable about what the story is with these. It is popular to see the characters in a variety of different things you've probably seen of speak no evil, hear no evil, say no evil, or no, wait. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. There we go. Thank you. I don't think it's those. That's unclear. There's just I haven't seen anything that obviously clearly put on that. But then there is one more peculiar thing about this scene. When you look at this, did you notice the little armored one? And what little armored one am I talking about? That's Spanish for armadillos.
Oh,
there is an armadillo. I would assume a stuffed armadillo on the top of the kitchen cabinets to the left of the scene. And I just thought that was the most randomest thing. Armadillos, they're a species native to the Americas, both North and South America, inhabit a variety of environments. They're basically known for their very leathery, sort of almost armor-looking skin. But I was thinking to myself, somebody who was involved in creating armor for himself, that's a funny thing to have. Again, I looked for stories on why that's there, other than the sort of tongue-in-cheek meaning. Couldn't find anything else out, but I thought that was funny that's
I love armadillos. They're adorable. Okay. They're when they run around, it looks like they're tiptoeing.
In Texas, when you drive through Texas on a long road trip, and you're like, exactly. What is happening?
When I moved from the Midwest out here to the Southwest, that when I knew I was in the West is when I first saw an armadillo on the side of the road. I was like, oh, things have changed.
Things have changed. I'm in a different place.
That's right.
And just the last thing visually to talk about this is that, okay, I think this is funny. The adding to the insult to what Tony is doing to Pepper, this Iron Man portrait, which looks like something that was bought at like Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah.
It still has the corner cardboard corner things. And you can tell when he's like carrying it, it's got like just a simple cardboard back. Yeah. That's hilarious that he doesn't even take the corner covers off to put it on the wall, where he just takes the art piece and just throws it off to the side.
I think he's just torturing her.
Yes,
just more further along lines of just peppering Pepper.
Well, and where we're going to get to this is, I believe this is part of his flirting with Pepper.
Okay, because the next thing he says in this argument is, "I don't care about the," and we don't know what the end of that sentence is.
Oh, that's it.
So the fight goes on.
A lot. No, I mean, there was a lot visually and a lot of conversation. We could even talk about this is a great walk and talk. I think we've talked about this in a previous season of the Marvel Movie Minute. Yeah. Aaron Sorkin made popular in The West Wing these, just like one camera shots where people, and this is using a few cameras, but this real intense, deep dialogue that is happening between two characters as they're walking from point A to point B. Yep. It's really good. It's, yes, if you're Pepper, you're completely
I would not describe this dialogue as Sorkin-esque.
No, the gassy wind farm comment.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Aaron would never let that go through.
Well, Josh may have said that a few times, but
that's true. But off screen. But as we've been talking about art and beautiful visual things, there's a place you can go to look at beautiful art, and it's called Instagram. And we're on it. We have all sorts of postings about stuff going, what's happening at the next reel, all with a beautiful visual component. And as I've talked to some of our social media people, they are going out of their way to make sure everything is gorgeous and beautiful. So make sure you follow us at the next reel on Instagram and see what's going on with not only our show, but all of the other shows on our network.
Sweet.
So make sure you, because the argument is still going on. So make sure that you don't want to miss out what happens in 2022 because things are about to take a turn. So make sure you're here. Enough said.
Bye.